He then takes our boy somewhere and introduces him to his friend Haifeng, saying he's brought Zhou Wen here. Haifeng, a newcomer, just smiles and thanks Gao Yang for bringing our boy here. Suddenly, Haifeng moves with such incredible speed that our boy can barely see him. He appears in front of Zhou Wen in the form of a monstrous creature. But my guy remains cool as a cucumber and tells Haifeng that if he really wants to fight, they can just settle it in the arena, so there's no need to make a mess here. Haifeng then snaps his fingers, and the dark red creature begins to disappear. He compliments our boy on how he remained unusually calm and sharp. As the dark form disappears, we see Haifeng has arrived with 2 of his lackeys. He begins by apologizing for his previous impertinence and introduces himself as Hu Haifeng. Without wasting any moment, he cuts to the chase and invites Zhou to join their team and help them take down the blood-striped Buddha heart lotus together. It seems like our boy probably didn't completely destroy the core of the flower last time, which is why the lotus is still around. Anyway, he asks why he's being chosen for this, and Haifeng explains that he studied the video of the battle between him and the Buddha heart lotus. While Li Xuan performed brilliantly, Haifeng found our boy's command and judgment even more intriguing. He points out that the academy has people stronger than Li Xuan. However, what made their last fight valuable was Zhou Wen's overall observation skills, and how he anticipated Li Xuan's position and dealt with the poison toad at the perfect moment. Haifeng goes on to say that if their third member hadn't betrayed them, Zhou would have won the fight. He further reassures our boy that he won't have to deal with the Lotus Pond mess again. All he needs to do is guide them and manage their symbiotic pets from the sidelines. Even with all the chatting and explaining, Zhou still turns them down. In his head, he's more focused on how to beat the boss in his game than on directing a bunch of cocky seniors. He's almost got the Lotus figured out and plans to tackle it himself eventually. Gao Yang tells him to think it over because Haifeng and the other 2 seniors are at legendary level in the academy. Joining them could be a big win, and with their help, victory could come pretty quick. But our boy is not having it and refuses again, which really gets on Gao Yang's nerves. He thinks to himself that if it weren't for Haifeng, he wouldn't have even talked to this annoying brat. Just then, Haifeng stops our boy and reminds him that he doesn't have to refuse so quickly. He asks him what he wants and assures him that they can arrange it if it's reasonable. Zhou Wen turns around, and he startles these both of thugs by saying he wants a legendary symbiotic egg. Gao Yang is furious at this bold demand coming from his junior. But despite Gao's irritation, our boy stands his ground and happily states that he'll join the team if they offer him a legendary symbiotic egg. Gao Yang is clearly annoyed, and he further gets cocky and grabs Zhou Wen by the collar. He tells him not to push his luck because his role in this partnership is minor. All he is doing is just directing the symbiotic pets, which doesn't warrant the legendary egg he's asking for. Xu Wen tells Cao Yang to cool his jets. He makes it clear that it's entirely up to them. If they're willing to give him what he wants, then they're good. Otherwise, no hard feelings. Just then, Haifeng jumps into the scene and asks our boy if he has any specific requirements for the legendary symbiotic egg he wants. Zhou Wen shrugs, saying he doesn't have anything particular in mind. After all, he just wants a legendary egg to feed his pet, though he does not say it out loud. Haifeng then tosses an egg toward our boy and asks if that will be satisfactory. Well, Zhou Wen is clearly pleased with the offer and has no further demands, because getting a legendary symbiotic egg for free is more than enough for him. Haifeng extends his hand for a fist bump to seal the deal, and Zhou Wen quickly reciprocates, finalizing their agreement. As they part ways, Gao Yang turns to his friend and questions how he could give away the flaming toxic bee's symbiotic egg so easily. He doesn't understand why he trusts Zhou Wen so much. Haifeng reminds his friend that after watching the video of the battle, he felt our boy had something special, which is almost as if he'd fought the Lotus before. Gao Yang is a bit shocked to hear this, but Haifeng just walks off, telling his friend not to stress. The egg is now just part of the deal, serving as insurance against their failure. Back in his room, our boy summons his winged mosquito. Once the little critter appears, he flashes the legendary symbiotic egg he snagged for dinner. Without wasting any time, he pops the egg right into his pet's mouth. Immediately, a giant blob of aura and fire surrounds the little guy as he begins to evolve. When the transformation is done, our winged mosquito emerges with sharp green eyes, a needle-like sting, and an overall bigger size, which is way bigger than it was before. Zhou finds it fascinating that this evolution merged the properties of the flaming toxic bee's attributes, probably because both are insects. He then checks the stats and notices that the larva tag is finally gone, and his mosquito has finally matured. But what really shocks him is how much the stats have improved, almost exceeding the limits of a legendary creature. On top of that, it's got a new skill called Magic Light Sting, which shoots a long, high-speed energy sting capable of piercing through targeted enemies. Joen can't help but flash a grin at his newly evolved pet. With its awesome upgrades, he's feeling pretty confident it can definitely take down the blood-striped Buddha Heart Lotus. He quickly drips some blood onto his screen, summoning his blood avatar, along with his upgraded winged mosquito. Without wasting any time, he sends his mosquito charging at the Lotus. The Lotus isn't about to just sit there and take hits. It conjures up that crimson stuff and tries to blast the mosquito out of the air. But the mosquito zips through the attack with lightning speed, almost too fast to see. As the mosquito gets close, it's just a hair away from piercing the flower's eye with its sharp claw. But in a split second, the sneaky Lotus ducks into the water, leaving the mosquito wondering where it went. Just then, the mosquito notices something coming up from below the ground. The Lotus tries to catch it off guard by attacking from underneath, but the mosquito dodges the sneaky petals and makes a quick escape. The mosquito then turns his attention back to the flower and ramps up its descent momentum by using its silver wing attack, aiming directly at the flower. The Lotus tries to block the attack with its crimson substance, but the mosquito isn't finished yet. With lightning speed, it circles back, slicing through the crimson barrier with its sharp wings. The Lotus looks quite frustrated, and it finally explodes, revealing a toad inside, just like we saw in the real-life battle. And as expected, the toad quickly starts throwing gooey, sticky sludge at the mosquito. But the little guy dodges everything with ease. It quickly counters with its sting attack, sending a sharp crimson needle straight into the toad. The toad pops like a balloon as soon as the needle hits its target, and another sting from the mosquito obliterates the core of the Lotus, causing a massive explosion in the aftermath. Just as the haze starts to clear, the mosquito makes sure to grab the crystal from the smoky explosion. Meanwhile, our boy watches with awe, still doubting if his winged mosquito's skill has truly become that powerful. His pet returns with the prize in its mouth and quickly spits out the demonic crystal of the Lotus. Joe doesn't waste a moment and grabs up the red crystal. He is feeling pretty confident that the QI fighting skill of this blood-striped Buddha Heart Lotus might be the key to entering that small Buddhist temple. He absorbs the crystal, and this time the absorption process starts to affect him in real life as well. It feels like a searing heat trying to cook him alive, but Joe endures the pain like a champ. Moments later, the system announces that the demonic crystal of the blood-striped Buddha Heart Lotus has been absorbed, and his original skill, meditation, has been upgraded to a stronger skill known as blood meditation. Once the process is over, Jowen's body is still emitting steam. He rinses his sweaty shirt, giving it a solid twist to wring out the water. After that, he activates his newly acquired blood meditation skill. As expected, the QE consumption rate with blood meditation is slower than with regular meditation, allowing it to last for about half an hour. He is now feeling pretty confident that this skill will help him explore the small Buddhist temple like a pro. Without wasting any time, he dives back into the game. He finally crosses the stairs of the underground Buddha city, making his way with renewed vigor, showing no signs of exhaustion. He's feeling happy that this enhanced meditation skills is helping him resist the power of this area. After a few minutes of running, he finally reaches the main entrance of the small Buddhist temple. He's feeling pretty nervous before going in because he's not sure what kind of monsters he might run into. But he goes in anyway. After looking around for a bit, he's kind of weirded out that there aren't any dimensional creatures around. Then he spots a slab on the other side with some Chinese writing on it, and the title on the slab says it's a short sutra on perfect wisdom. That is when he recalls that the large sutra on perfect wisdom is a well-known thing. According to legend, a Buddhist discovered it during a dimensional storm, and it was ranked as one of the 2 greatest QE spell arts in Buddhism. He is sure that this short sutra on perfect wisdom must also be a spell too. As soon as he tries to read the inscription, the words on the slab start twisting and wrapping around, and he gets hit with a brutal headache. It feels like someone's trying to scramble his brain like eggs. He grabs his head in pain, and suddenly something starts shining brightly in the middle of his avatar's chest. In the next moment, the immense pressure he was feeling vanishes, and he notices that the flow velocity of the Immortal Sutra has slowed down. The pressure is gone, and he's no longer feeling any discomfort as he tries to read the inscription. Just as he's trying to make sense of everything around him, he quickly notices his ki bar is depleting. He hasn't even entered the Buddhist hall yet, so he starts running without wasting any time. Once he's standing outside the small Buddhist temple, he opens the door and spots a giant statue with 3 Buddha faces. He's not even sure if a 3-faced Buddha is a real thing in Buddhism. But as soon as he steps inside, his avatar starts to twist. And just like that, the game is over. He's dead again, without any warning or obvious reason. Looks like he'll need to dig deeper to figure out the rules before entering the temple. At least this experience taught him a bit about what those predecessors went through to gain their power. They really risked their lives, and he's starting to admire them for that. Even with the help of blood meditation, he still couldn't enter the Buddhist hall. But the fact that he didn't see any dimensional creatures suggests that getting into the temple must have something to do with that stone tablet. He's pretty sure that the tablet is some kind of chi spell, but since he has already practiced the Lost Immortal Sutra, he knows he can't practice another chi spell right now. Still, he decides to memorize the sutra written on it. Surprisingly, he's memorizing this script much better than the Lost Immortal Sutra. Once he's halfway through memorizing it, he decides to leave the small Buddhist temple's vicinity before his chi runs out. He plans to come back and finish reading it once his chi is replenished. He spends the entire day like this, yawning and grinding his ass away in the game. By the end of it, he's finally memorized the entire sutra. Suddenly, light starts radiating from him, and he's absolutely blown away by the new kind of chi circulating in his core. The only thing he can think is that this must be the short sutra on perfect wisdom he just memorized. He looks at his hand in his real life, and can also feel this new chi spell even though he hasn't practiced it. It's automatically circulating through his body according to his memory. He has no clue what's going on, but he's too exhausted to delve into these mysteries right now. So he decides to hit the hay and will figure out what's happening once he wakes up. Just as he starts catching some Z's, mysterious patterns begin to pop up on his chiseled body. By the way, have you noticed that this lazy guy does nothing but game, yet he has one of the best bodies? It's a bit jealous-making. If I could get stronger just by writing manhwa recaps, I'd be the strongest person on the planet. Anyway, after his sleep, he heads to the bath in the morning. As the water pours over his body, he lets out a scream because his skin is shedding. He comes out of the bath, wondering if this is the effect of the short sutra on perfect wisdom circulating in his body. Regardless, he grabs his phone again and checks his stats. To his surprise, his old Lost Immortal Sutra key spell hasn't been replaced. Instead, his constitution has broken the 10 limit and improved to 11. Not only that, he can also feel the short sutra on perfect wisdom circulating through his body. But then he realizes something that completely blows his mind. Apparently, he can replace and circulate his newly acquired chi with the Lost Immortal Sutra. This means he's mastered 2 chi spells at once, which is a huge deal since most chi spells are very different in nature, and it's tough for a person to operate 2 simultaneously. The more advanced and complicated the chi spells, the harder they are to coexist. Just then, his phone starts ringing. It's Haifeng, who reminds him that they've already reached the lotus pond to challenge the lotus flower and asks why he hasn't arrived yet. Looks like our guy got so caught up in grinding his game that he forgot he had a promise to fulfill. Shortly after, he makes it to the lotus pond, where we see that the party has already started attacking the core of the lotus flower. And our boy is the one who is calling all the shots, and with his flawless guidance, the team manages to obliterate the blob of goo. Our boy quickly tells everyone to back off at least 20 meters. The beast starts stepping back, but that's when this cocky guy, who seems to be using his backside to think, insists that they should deliver the final deadly move now instead of retreating. This rowdy guy decides to take charge himself and orders his flying beasts to launch their blood blade rain. The birds throw their feathers, which begin to demolish the area. A giant explosion rocks the entire area, and one bird gets caught in the explosion and gets burned to smithereens. The cocky guy is left silent after making this blunder. Our boy makes it clear that he won't be compensating for the loss of the bird because the guy didn't listen to him. The cap guy apologizes and admits his mistake, saying there's no need for him to pay for it. Once the lotus flower is finally reduced to debris and dust, we see 2 teachers standing near the entrance of the tunnel. The blonde teacher feels quite jealous that someone like our boy will be her student. The woman with glasses comments that our boy gives the impression that he somehow knew the Buddha heart lotus would explode at the last moment. To defeat the Buddha Heart Lotus in the military department of the Western District, 5 legendary creatures had to be sacrificed. The blonde then reminds her that since he has a relationship with the Aang family, it's safe to assume that he might have gotten the information from them. The lady responds that Aang Jing and her brother don't like Zhou very much, so they wouldn't just hand over information without a good reason. This makes her even more curious about him, and she wants to learn more. We're back in the game, inside the dungeon under the Lotus Pond. The toad has been activated, and it's spitting out those black gooey balls. But our boy's winged mosquito is dodging them left and right and takes the toad out with a wing attack. To finish the job, the mosquito unleashes its magic light sting. Just like before, it erupts in a heavy explosion, and our guy is pretty chuffed to see that with his knowledge of the Lotus's attack patterns and the mosquito's abilities, he can take down the boss quite easily. Suddenly his phone rings, and he sees that there's a new loot drop, which is a symbiotic egg of the blood-striped Buddha Heart Lotus. He picks it up and learns that it's an alchemy-level egg with pretty good attributes. However, he also finds out that while the real Lotus knows several QE fighting skills, this one is too weak and only has one skill. Since there's a risk in hatching the egg, and he doesn't want to end up with a larva Buddha Heart Lotus, he considers fusing it instead. But the fusion rate is abysmal. That's when another system window grabs his attention, suggesting that he simply feed the egg to the silver-winged mosquito. Our boy remembers that the last time he fed his monster a legendary egg, it grew up. So he wonders if the same will happen again. With that in mind, he presses the feed button, but nothing particularly happens. It looks like he might have just wasted a legendary egg, and he's left with no clue about what exactly he needs to do to grow this critter. In the next scene, we see his avatar running towards the small Buddhist temple. As he nears the door, he quickly switches his QE spell to the Short Wisdom Sutra, and feels pretty chuffed to see that circulating the sutra is working perfectly. Once inside, he spots the Buddha statue again. Suddenly, something begins to drip from the statue, and a magical enchantment starts to shimmer right under his blood avatar. He's worried he might have triggered another instant kill trap. To his surprise, nothing happens to him. Instead, a bunch of blobs starts to surround him. When he takes a closer look, he realizes they're actually symbiotic eggs. A system window pops up displaying some odd text. According to the postscript, the Buddha statue is one of the 5 kings of knowledge in Buddhism, who have conquered the 3 worlds of desire, form, and formlessness, and he is offered an egg by the Buddha. Our boy finds it pretty strange that this statue is trying to give him free symbiotic eggs. When he tries to check the stats of the egg, the system window says that the attributes can't be accessed because they're unknown. So, he decides to pick one of the 3 eggs at random. As soon as he makes his choice, the system announces that the mythical creature hatching is confirmed. Our boy gets absolutely furious and throws his phone away because he never confirmed anything. It's not that he doesn't want a mythical creature. In fact, they're very powerful in the dimensional realm. The problem is that even legendary creatures nearly killed him during hatching, so he's dreading the pain that's about to come with a mythical creature. But since the hatching has already been confirmed, the arc of pain begins. This red-black substance starts to choke him, and he really doesn't want to be the first guy to die from playing games. A while later, we see him sprawled on the ground, looking like he's just gone through post-nut clarity after jacking off to some anime girls. He's pretty weirded out that he's still alive despite the mythical creature hatching. He can also feel that his blood and chi have drained from his body. I guess it was worth it though, since I highly doubt he would have gotten a fluffy and cute furball like this otherwise. The creature is named Diding. He's confused at first because a mythical creature is supposed to be a powerhouse capable of destroying everything, but this little fella doesn't seem to fit that description. He picks up his phone and checks the creature's stats. Well, here's the bad news. The system mentions that this creature is an ordinary one at its primary stage. What shocks him most is that this ordinary creature has all attributes in the 2-digit range, which seems far from ordinary. It's hard to believe this could be considered ordinary at all. Still, he was told it was a mythical creature, and now he feels like he's been scammed by this crappy system. Nonetheless, he starts pondering the system's mention of the primary stage, and wonders if this monster can grow like the silver-winged mosquito. In myths, the white dog of Bodhisattva Ksitagarbha could hear everything in heaven and earth, and in Journey to the West, Diding could differentiate the real Monkey King from the 6-eared macaque, while many other gods couldn't. This little creature, however, looks quite different from what he had expected. He then decides to check out the creature's symbiotic form. The little creature transforms into an ear-piercing ring. As soon as the effects of the ring are activated, he can feel and hear his surroundings more acutely. He can even hear people outside his dorm room. That's when he catches the voice of Jiang, who seems to be groaning intensely, making him suspect she might be having a blast with her middle fingers. He even feels like a pervert for eavesdropping on girls and decides to tune out and refocus. Still, her groans are getting more intense and she seems to be in real distress. He quickly reaches her dorm room and starts banging on the door, asking if she's okay. When he doesn't get a response, he starts to worry that something might have happened to her. Determined to rescue her, he takes a few steps back and charges at the door like a bull. However, he still can't get inside because this is Ang Jiang's room, and her security door is built like a tank. Meanwhile, Jiang, lying on the ground, is puzzled about how he can even hear her. She definitely doesn't want him to see her in the awful state she's in right now. Before he can actually tear through the door, Jiang quickly tells him to stop. The thumping at the door suddenly stops, but our guy, Ever the Champ, decides to jump through the window, leaving her completely boggled. As soon as he's inside, he asks if she's okay. Jiang is utterly embarrassed to see him and asks, "How on earth did you get in through the window?" Our clueless hero replies that he thought she was in danger because no one answered the door. He adds that he prefers calling a doctor if she's hurt. The girl quickly gets terrified and assures him she's been through this many times before and it'll be fine soon enough. That is when this idiot asks her outright if she's having her period. She glares at him like he's the dumbest person alive, throws down a mug over his face, and reluctantly confirms that yes, she's having her period. Then she drags him out of the room and slams the door shut. Looks like our guy completely misread the situation. Meanwhile, inside the room, she leans against the door, sliding down to the ground, feeling utterly embarrassed and blushing like crazy after the awkward encounter. The boy returns to his dorm room and starts preparing food, specifically choosing red dates to help him recover sooner. His phone begins buzzing, and when he picks it up, it's Xuan on the other end. The playboy informs him that the new semester starts today, and that every club is looking for new members, so he suggests taking a stroll around campus to explore and get acquainted with others. However, the boy states that he's not interested in joining any clubs. Xuan responds that they could work together, and he's planning to start his own club. He even promises to help our boy with climbing up the ranks if he joins his club. But as we all know, my guy can easily climb the ranks just by playing video games, so he refuses and lets his friend know he's not interested. Xuan then tells him not to be so cold, reminding him that they need teams to complete most of the tasks assigned by the college. He points out that no one wanted to team up with them during the real combat test and asks if he wants to face that situation again. I guess our playboy got a point, so Joe eventually gives in and reminds his friend that the two of them alone aren't enough to start a club. Xuan just says they'll figure it out later. With that, the scene takes us to the outside, where the students start gathering in the central square of the college, and our boy feels overwhelmed by the crowd. Among the sea of people, Xuan is standing on the stairs, calling out to him, and he's accompanied by a lady. When they meet up, the playboy quickly asks why he's carrying a bag. Our boy explains he's got red dates and wolfberry tea to help replenish his blood. That's when the lady chimes in, suggesting that since he's already here, he should join Wei Yang's club. She adds that they have many lovely girls and would be happy to have him join. By the way, Wei Yang is Xuan's sister, which is exactly why Xuan protests, saying that our boy will be joining his club instead. He asks his sister if she's trying to lure him in with a bunch of beauties, making it clear that they're not falling for it. Despite his words, it's obvious from the way our playboy is drooling that he's definitely tempted. Our boy admits that he can't join Wei Yang's club, not because he's not interested in clapping some cheeks, but because he's already promised Xuan he'd join his club. Wei Yang's lovely sister gives up and says she's looking forward to cooperating with Xuan's club if the need arises. This pervert brother just gives a pleasant thumbs up to his sister, but our boy just stands there in silence. Once the ladies have left, Xuan jokes about how our boy let a group of lovely ladies slip away. Joe tells him to stop joking and get serious, asking if Xuan isn't really committed to starting the new club. He warns that they need to start recruiting members quickly, or all the freshmen will join other clubs soon. The playboy points out that there's nothing they can do because freshmen have to wait a month before they can apply to establish a club. They also need at least 5 members, and right now they're not qualified to start a club yet. Annoyed, Joe asks what the heck they're even doing here if they can't establish a club. Xuan proudly replies that they're here to check out the girls, of course. This just irritates our boy even more, realizing he missed out on joining a club with a group of girls just so he could help Xuan establish his club. But then, a familiar voice calls out to our boy. Hearing this, Joe turns around, only to see two of his former friends standing before him. He wasn't expecting to run into them here, and he finds it rather fascinating that they all ended up at Sunset College again. Xuan nearly jumps out of his skin when he sees a hottie in shorts and quickly asks our boy who this bombshell is. Zhu introduces her as Feng Ruxi, and mentions that they used to go to the same high school. The playboy then creeps over to Joe and whispers, asking how he could have missed the chance to meet her back then if they were in the same school. But even if he missed the chance back then, Xuan is glad to meet someone like Ruxi now. He quickly invites her to join his club, asking if she'd be interested. To the playboy's surprise, Ruxi agrees right away. That's when this idiot remembers to tell her that they can only officially apply to start the club a month later, so she might have to wait a bit for things to happen. The girl agrees to wait for their club and then walks over to Joe. She bows in front of him and apologizes, saying she's really sorry for leaving him out of the team during the college entrance exam, which might have caused him to miss his chance. Xuan watches with interest, wondering if she joined Sunset College just because of Joe. On the other hand, Joe forgives her, saying it wasn't entirely her fault. The blonde guy also awkwardly jumps in, saying they had no choice back then but promises it won't happen again. The playboy then tells everyone to chill and skip the formalities since they're all buddies. He suggests it's getting late, so they should head back and get some rest to gear up for tomorrow's combat test. Chu is a bit surprised to hear this, and asks if they really have to dive into a combat test on their first day of college. He wonders if they're heading to Buddha City for it. Xuan clears it up, saying they're not going to Buddha City because this place is a newly discovered with tons of hidden dangers, and the college isn't about to let freshmen take those risks. Ruxi then explains that, based on past years' experiences, the college usually picks one of the 4 stable dimensional realms for the test. You just need to kill a dimensional creature to pass, and the more you take down, the higher your score. Joe's pretty intrigued and asks how she knows so much. The girl casually points out that all the info is posted on the college's dimensional forum. Soon after they part ways, our guy takes a quiet stroll and explains that the dimensional forum was set up by the Federation to help and encourage people to share info about different dimensional realms. There's no need to use real info for registration, and both the military and the public can post whatever they want. He didn't pay much attention to it when he was at Guida High since they rarely dealt with complex dimensional areas. He never thought that everyone at Sunset College would actually use the forum to communicate. Now he's thinking it might be a good idea to learn the rules and start using the forum himself. As he's absorbed in his phone, someone calls out to him, asking if he's a special admitted student living in his building. Joe quickly looks around, trying to find the source of the voice, only to realize that the short girl is standing right in front of him. Seems like he failed to notice her because of his long-ass giraffe-like neck. He greets her and introduces himself as Joe Wen, mentioning that he lives on the 2nd floor. The girl, full of enthusiasm, introduces herself as Wang Lu. She's also a special admitted student, so he can just call her Lu. She mentions she lives on the 1st floor, and they're apparently neighbors now. But as soon as he sees her enthusiasm, he suddenly vanishes into thin air, leaving only the sound of a door closing. Looks like she stumbled upon a rather strange neighbor. Our guy puts away his bag, fires up his computer, and dives headfirst into the forums. He discovers that the forum is a massive information-sharing platform accessible to everyone. The college and people from all walks of life regularly post or provide dimensional information through this site. He's totally blown away that such a huge platform doesn't require real name registration, and the Federation isn't worried about outlaws or enemies getting info from it. On top of that, there's a generous bonus system where you can trade all kinds of resources using dimensional points you earn from posting on the forum. He's amazed at how you can earn these points just by sharing information. The first way to earn dimensional points is through the clicks on regular posts, but this only nets you a few points, even if thousands of people read your post. To rack up more points, you can post paid content. The content of these paid posts is unlimited, and writers can set their own prices. However, due to the anonymity of the dimensional forum, users are afraid of being scammed, so they tend to stick with paid content from well-known posters. Additionally, The Federation and the college also publish strategies for paid content, which only cost a few points. At first, our guy mulls over what kind of post to make, but it doesn't take him long to figure out his move. So he dives in and creates his first post. Meanwhile, we see a teacher is lounging on her bed, sipping tea and scrolling through the forums. She comes across all sorts of freshmen trying to impress the ladies. As she skims through the usual junk, she finally stumbles upon something intriguing. It doesn't take her long to realize that this is a strategy for the small Buddhist temple, priced at 20,000 dimensional points. Her jaw almost drops as she realizes how impossible this is. How could this person possibly know about the small Buddhist temple? The area around it has been set up as a forbidden zone, and relevant news has been blocked. Even most teachers don't know the temple's name. She suspects the post might be a scam, especially since the account is new. But still, if this post is genuine, it could seriously shake up how the military approaches their explorations. Out of sheer curiosity, the teacher spends 20,000 points, and the information appears right before her eyes. She learns that consuming chi through the meditation of the Buddha Heart Lotus's dimensional crystal can resist the strange force in front of the temple, which twists people's insides. The higher the crystal level, the longer the effect lasts. The teacher finds this quite odd, because no one is foolish enough to practice a basic Kai fighting skill, and even if you give this technique to people for free, no one would want to practice it. She wonders if she's been duped by this post. Meanwhile, our guy is grinding away in the game again, battling the Skeleton Knight repeatedly. After taking down the Skeleton Knight a bunch of times, he finally scores a symbiotic egg as a loot drop. He quickly feeds it to his little critter, telling it to grow up and not just eat all the time. Seems like he is tired of farming the Skeleton Knight, so he decides it's time to explore deeper into the map. As he flies around the area, he's puzzled to find that there are no skeleton soldiers in sight even though he has ventured much deeper. Then he spots something unusual on the ground, which is a massive tower from an ancient imperial city known as Yanbo Tower. This is a real surprise for him, and he wonders why Yanbo's tower is here. For some context, Yanbo was the son of Deku, one of the 5 emperors from prehistory, representing the fire god. The tower, known as the fire god's stargazing place, is supposed to be located in the southwest, outside ancient Guida city. According to history books, it shouldn't be in the ancient city in the game at all. He's totally confused about why this iconic structure is here. Suddenly, he notices something flying over from the tower, and it quickly starts tracking him down. This thing seems like a fiery bird, and it swoops down at him with bullet speed. He immediately takes his stance and uses his Ash Palm ability, but the eagle-like fiery creature just pierces right through it. This encounter just leaves our boy totally blown away, because it just felt like he just hit empty air, and the bird just zipped past him. And in the next moment, the fire of that bird roasts his avatar alive. He chugs down an energy shake, puts away the empty glass, and jumps back into the game, determined to defeat this new monster he's just run into. This time he's flying using his winged mosquito symbiotic form. However, since the mosquito is the king of low altitude and extremely agile, he can't fly directly above the Yanbo Tower to see what's happening. What is making his situation terrible is this relentless monster, which is chasing him from behind, and he needs to find a way to shake it off first. He recalls the time when the firebird turned to attack him earlier, and once the mosquito dodged away, the firebird seemed to prioritize attacking whoever was standing near to the Yanbo Tower first. With this in mind, he decides to strategically use himself as bait to take down this fiery bird. Just as he reaches a certain height, he deactivates his symbiotic form and starts falling without its wings. That's when the fiery bird charges at him, but his winged mosquito quickly swoops in and takes down the fiery bird with a single strike. It seems like the mosquito's light sting works against the firebird, even though his ash palm earlier couldn't hurt it at all. He's also curious why the system hasn't announced the beast's defeat yet. Regardless, he quickly starts ascending the stairs to check things out himself. But then, he notices 2 more fiery birds coming his way, and he immediately tells his silver-winged mosquito to distract them. The mosquito charges at the fiery birds with its sharp agility, drawing their attention and clearing the path, just so our boy can ascend the stairs as quickly as possible. Well, it seems like his ascent isn't going to be as smooth as he thought, because the fire atop the tower starts reacting again, and this time, multiple fiery birds head his way. Instead of backing down, he goes full throttle. He leaps into the air and zips past the birds by using his ash palm to push himself through them. But just as he nears the top of the tower, he begins to see a word written in Chinese beneath the scorching flames. Before he can make any sense of it, a giant explosion happens, knocking everything around him, and the game ends once again. The word he saw earlier meant imperial in English, but he still has no clue what it means in this context. He's sure that this dungeon is supposed to be based on the real ancient Guida city, but in the game, it's called the Ancient Imperial City for some reason. He also notes that there was no killing notice by the system after he took down the Firebirds. He has a hunch that it might be because they were summoned by some kind of key fighting skill, and he's curious about what will happen if he faces the boss who summoned these monsters. He's sure there must be a lot of secrets in the Fire God Tower, but he doesn't have any way to explore them right now. While browsing the forums, he notices that he scored 20,000 dimensional points twice. Earning money through the forum isn't as hard as he thought. But his moment of satisfaction is cut short when he receives a direct message, and the sender wants to discuss the small Buddhist temple. Meanwhile, on the other side of the screen, the sender is waiting impatiently for Joe's response. Earlier, she had consulted her senior and shared everything about how meditation might help resist the mysterious power of the small Buddhist temple. Her senior agreed with her, saying they have tried meditation, and it indeed works. But they're both curious about who this unknown person is who knows such specific knowledge about the short temple of Buddha. The senior then dropped a hint that there's a stone tablet in front of the temple with a key spell on it. Apparently, similar tablets are found in other realms too. Rumor has it that someone practiced the chi spell and got some mysterious powers, but it's a bit more complex than that. There's something really weird about the short sutra on the tablet, which is located in front of the short temple of Buddha. The senior even mentioned that some volunteers tried to memorize the inscription, but unfortunately, they all ended up dying. The junior is stunned by this info, and her senior tells her that practicing the short sutra on perfect wisdom requires something special. He asks her to get more useful information from the poster who shared this knowledge. So, in the present moment, as she's anxiously waiting, Joe finally responds to her. She quickly starts typing and asks if he knows the short sutra on perfect wisdom. Our boy confirms that he does, which only confirms her suspicions even more that this guy knows all about the small Buddhist temple. While Joe waits for her reply, she responds by asking how he learned to practice the short sutra on perfect wisdom, and she's eager to offer a top price for this information. It turns out Joe has no clue how to practice the short sutra either. He remembers almost getting killed by the headache when he tried to read the inscription on the tablet, nearly losing consciousness. The only thing that eased his pain was the lost immortal sutra he'd already practiced. Well, it looks like he finally knows how he practiced the short sutra. So, he quickly gets up from his seat and tells her he just can't help with this. With that, he closes the forum tab without saying another word. The next day arrives, and the students have started to gather in the college. We can also see Xuan greeting mornings with our boy, who looks completely exhausted and barely awake. Xuan gives him a little pep talk, telling him not to burn out by gaming all night. And it's true, our boy spent the entire night playing his favorite game, exploring deeper into the ant nest, but came up with no new leads. Even though the evolved silver-winged mosquito could fight and even take down those black mosquitoes, the ordinary level skeletons and Joe's own life are always at risk. They're weak compared to the enemies and haven't scored any worthwhile loot. Once everyone settles down in class, in walks the stunning beauty with black hair, causing all the perverted boys to drool over her. She cheerfully greets everyone and introduces herself as Wang Fie, which literally means king's concubine. As energetic as she might seem, there is no denying that her eyes are begging for some sleep, and she spent the whole night waiting for a reply from the mysterious man, who is our boy, of course. Meanwhile, our playboy, being his usual self, asks her if he can become the king of her life. The teacher agrees and explains that if he can pass her test and graduate successfully, he can become one. After a bit of playful banter, she gets down to business, informing everyone that the entrance test is to kill one demonized general in the Tiger Cage Pass within 10 days. They can team up with up to 3 other students for this task. She makes it clear that they must finish the task within 1.5 minutes. Otherwise, they'll be expelled. The entire class lets out a collective scream, and some of them quickly remind her that they're still at the mortal level, and there's no way they can pull this off. But she calmly explains that as long as they take it seriously, 10 days will be more than enough. She announces that everyone will be allowed to enter the Tiger Cage Pass over the next 10 days, and hopes to see them all again after the test is over. Xuan looks just as confused and admits that taking down demonized generals in the Tiger Cage Pass seems like an unbelievable task. Seems like our clueless idiot does not even know what the hell these demonized generals are, so he asks how they are so hard to defeat. In response, Xuan explains that the Tiger Cage Pass used to be an ancient battlefield, so the creatures there are pretty powerful. Among legendary level creatures, demonized generals are above average. Some special demonized generals have even reached the top of the legendary level. Since most of the freshmen are still at mortal level, this test is incredibly tough for them. Joe figures the best way to handle this is to take a closer look at the Tiger Cage Pass and see what's up. The next scene takes us to the teacher's office, where a male teacher is calling out to Wang Fei. He points out that using such a challenging test for special admitted students might not be a good thing, since they're just ordinary students. Wang Fei agrees and says she's already posted the details about the demonized generals on the Dimensional Forum. As long as the students are willing to study up, it's actually not that hard to complete the task. She clarifies that she's not trying to force anyone to drop out of school, she just wants them to stay humble and not get too arrogant or overconfident. After all, what they'll face in the future will be way more dangerous than this. We're back with our boys, who are staring down at the gate of Tiger Cage Pass. As soon as they enter, they find themselves in a desert, where a bunch of weird sand-dweller-looking people are hanging around. Apparently, these are the demonized soldiers, and Xuan isn't exactly thrilled to see them since they were hoping to find demonized generals. He then turns to his friend and suggests they should go deeper to see if they can find any demonized generals around. But our boy flatly refuses, because he just wants to play it safe and avoid risking their lives. He points out that they don't know much about this place, and he can't be the one to save this playboy every time. Shane calls him a party pooper, and Joe just starts walking away, saying he's going to look around on his own. As he strolls around, we learn that our boy is on the lookout for a dungeon to scan into his phone. He figures if he could find dungeons in underground Buddha City and ancient Guida City, then this place should have one too. His eyes land on a statue nearby, and as he squints his eyes to take a closer look, he spots the palm-like emblem he's been searching for. So without any further ado, he quickly pulls out his phone to scan it. A while later, other students have already started fighting the demonized soldiers, and Xuan is watching from above, looking seriously disappointed. You see, our playboy can tell that these demonized soldiers are just weak sauce, and they are barely a threat at all. To him, it's pretty laughable really, considering how cautious Joe was about these pesky creatures. Speaking of Joe, our boy comes back and tells his friend to let's get going. After hearing this, Xuan turns around and agrees. But as soon as he sees his friend's unusually happy face, he feels a chill run down his spine. As they stroll out of the gate, Xuan can't help but point out how unusually happy his friend seems. But Joe just outwardly denies it, all while inwardly, he's over the moon because he's finally found a new dungeon to explore. Well, it seems like we're wrapping up this story here, and since you've made it all the way through, it means you stuck around to hear me yammering. I know the translations and power levels in this manhwa are a bit trash and underexplained, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. I hope you did too. Let me know your thoughts in the comments so far.